Welcome back to the drama. I know those of you who are all in on the shipping are not thrilled with pulling Lizzie away from Pemberley and the clutches of the Darcys, but we have to do some drama now. Don't worry, it's good. It's important. Super important. We're back at the Bennett's home, although not in Lizzie's room because it doesn't exist anymore. Check out the Patreon for bonus content. I'm joined today by the writer of this episode and of the whole Lydia mess that we now have to deal with. My name is Ashley Clements.
That's me. I'm Rachel Kiley.
And this is the look back at Rachel's mess diary. It's Lydia's mess. It's everybody's mess. It's Lizzie's mess. I didn't ask for this. Things were happening. I mean, people love this arc right off the bat. Mary Kate and I have not done our rewatch yet of the episodes to come, but I'm sure that we will also be talking about the fact that this arc is the thing that we at the time and continue to this day to hear the most about related to LBD. The sisters coming together, Lizzie's realization that she wasn't really seeing her sister, and all of the parts of that that are so moving. That is what we hear the most about. So, as much as everybody's all about Darcy, as much as those episodes maybe have more views, this is the part that has more of an impact, and maybe also fewer rewatches because some of this is hard to watch.
It's very long.
It's very long. Also, yeah, no, these episodes get long. This one's under 5 though, because we're just coming back at it. We've gotta do a lot of like resetting. We have to explain why we're not in Lizzie's bedroom, and the answer is because Jenny Powell moved. But this is no one on the team lived here. This was a location that was like borrowed. Katie Most did some art styling here and
As she
made
does.
it, as she does, improve every location that we had. And I'm sure that I have to explain in this episode why we're here. Neither of us remember what happens in this episode.
Great.
Let's watch it. Ooh, now someone else was doing my makeup, and there's so much makeup. This is also the first time that we had big lights. There were like big kinos on me, and because of that, I couldn't actually see the team for the first time. Like there was just a camera and lights. Right. I'm sure this was what was agreed in the writers' room, but like seriously, she wouldn't like make. She wouldn't. There's
Had to do all of the logic jumps that we could.
This is the seahorse joke. I knew we somewhere referenced the seahorses for this very small group of vocal fans.
Yeah.
That's a decent excuse that I was like, I've set myself up where I can see the front door. And why I never move is because we never move.
Yep. This work's got to keep the same corner for all the way to the
All
next
this
one.
anxiety, this anxious stuff. I believe this was like a new top I'd gotten for Christmas, which then, immediately had to appear on the show because we would have been shooting this in January.
We could have just done an entire series on the wardrobe.
I just throw it out because it was something I had to think a lot about. Oh gosh, I forgot that I thought Lydia was responsible. Talk about not giving her the benefit of the doubt. Oh, are you gonna cry? Sorry.
There were a lot of tears in this round.
Well, and what I will say to the credit of your writing and also to the relationships that Mary Kate and I had built, and it was the first time that I had ever experienced getting to play a character for this length of time. But when it came to this stuff, I didn't have to try to cry. I had to try not to cry. The emotions were just right there because I was so invested in the stories. It was very rewarding as an actor to be like, oh, this is easy because I've been invested in the story for so long. But how heartbreaking that the assumption is that this was like something she knew about and agreed to. Oh no, is this when she finds out? Oh no, am I about to tell
Yeah,
her? Oh
this
no,
was
Rachel, that's so mean.
I
That's
know,
so horrible.
I enjoyed this so much.
Oh, I know. We've talked on the show about how much we like enjoyed torturing the audience.
That was so much
And this is the first time we've spoken since episode 74.
fun.
Now we're in 85.
So glad this conversation is happening on camera. Oh,
Yeah.
we did what we had to.
Oh no,
Oh no.
no, no, no. Oh, this is when she does the like gaspy cry thing, right? Oh, it's horrible. I mean, like, emotionally.
I can't imagine why people wouldn't want to rewatch this as much as they rewatch Darcy.
Yeah, I get it too. Because I haven't seen this in a while, and I'm like, no, 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 don't do it. Oh, but also, like, we just, there's that defense mechanism, right? She thought the present might be a joke, and now she thinks this sex tape website might be a joke. And isn't that a joke?
Sorry, girl.
I appreciate Lizzie being like, this is absolutely not how I would have told you.
My bad.
Whoopsie doo. Mm, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Shut the camera off.
Yeah, that sound is brutal. That like racking sob that she makes. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it's great. Good job, MK.
Yeah.
She and I will discuss the rest of this arc. So when I asked which of these episodes you wanted to do, you suggested this one, if you don't recall.
Yes.
And that was partly to, I think, discuss everything that had happened. Last time you were on the show, we got ahead of ourselves and talked a lot about the planning that went into sort of the Wickham arc. But now we're at a place where if you were watching both channels, you were watching this kind of like love story over here, and then this very toxic, manipulative love story on the other side. And I know that a lot of the reaction to that as those episodes were coming out was very negative because people weren't giving the creators the benefit of the doubt that they knew what story they were telling. But what was that like as you knew these episodes were coming out where he was doing, very manipulative, terrible things to her?
I think it was kind of more that people, had waited so long for the Darcy and Lizzie of it all and really wanted to enjoy it and were kind of not looking forward to like knowing the other shoe was going to drop, which I get, but like, as a writer, that's the fun of it is like knowing where everything is building to and like how terrible things are going to go before they get better again. So yeah, it was definitely it was a weird time watching the fan reaction play out, but
I remember that we were, as always, delighted. We're strong emotions that are in line with kind of the intentions were always pleasing, even when the fans were, upset because we were like, yes, you're supposed to hate this. Good. It's that feeling of like it's
yeah.
working. But I also know that there was some like actual inappropriate hate directed at you from people who
I earned some of it. I was really annoying online. No one will deny that.
we all learned a lot about how
To stay
much
offline, yes.
yeah, that fandom spaces are for fans,
Yes.
and that it's confusing on a show like this where we're encouraging this level of interaction. But if you were a person who sent Rachel or anyone else a bunch of hate online, you are much older now and you probably know that was inappropriate. But if you are a young person or you somehow have not learned this, don't attack the writers because you don't like what's happening in content. I still see messages about this all the time on Twitter. I follow a lot of TV writers, and they're like, "Hey, don't yell at me because you don't like what's happening on this show." Like, there are so many more factors at play, and also, like, you're not gonna like every story. They don't
Well,
have to
also
just do what you
conversely,
want them
writers
to
just stay
do.
out of it. Stay out of it. Just write the
Yes,
show.
writers stay out of it.
Don't
100%.
deal with yeah.
Ignore those people, mute them,
Even
move
the good
on.
stuff, honestly, even
Yeah.
because it just opens the door to getting too involved and stuff, and you'll make bad choices.
Well, and it's the same, right? Like, you're not supposed to read reviews. You're not supposed to, they say don't read the comments. And this was a show where we mostly did read the comments because that was like
We
kind of
had
part of the
to.
show.
Yeah, we had to.
And so some lines were blurred.
It's weird because I do feel like some good stuff came out of that. Like, I feel like some of the stuff that we responded to on the show came from, like, the conflicts that happened or, like, the way that people had negative reactions to certain things in the storyline. It kind of sucks, but some of it I think was the right way for it to all play out, like, in terms of the actual narrative. So it's a very strange amalgamation of things to look back on.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard line to walk. And like we were much younger. How do you engage without taking it personally?
Yeah.
And it's also so strange to me, and I guess that's also why I'm kind of asking you about it. It's so strange to me that there was hate directed at you, that there was all this negativity, because for the most part, I've always felt like we were so lucky with our fandom, that they were so kind. And a lot of the harassment that women talk about getting on the internet, I feel like I didn't get because the majority of my followers came via the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and they're mostly really, really lovely. And so when there are moments where I'm like, but no, you're supposed to be nice. And it doesn't mean I haven't gotten some weird comments, and I just mute and block.
It's the best thing to do.
Yeah, like, no, you annoy me at all, life is too short. I don't need this. I don't need
Yeah.
this. I mean, it's always going to be a kind of like blurry line. And Lizzie is also, to get back in world, has been navigating that for a while as well. Just the sort of like, what do I do with a public life? We don't actually have Lizzie kind of read the comments as much as we could, but I'm sure that people were very upset with the way that she handled this. But also, just hang on to your horses. Actually, let's see what they thought. Elwyn Brooks says, I think it's an indication of how Lizzie is still learning to not let her prejudices get in the way when she assumes that Lydia is anything but a victim, let alone a willing participant in leaking a sex tape. Yeah, it's why it's a really potent arc. I had forgotten, obviously, that Lizzie went in with that assumption, but it lines up exactly with her last interactions with Lydia, that she thinks she's irresponsible, that she makes bad choices, and it means that this whole learning curve is about to happen in like these 4 episodes, and it's massive growth for Lizzie and ultimately for both the sisters in coming together. So, yes, it is an indication.
I remember suggesting that in the writing room too. That like obviously it felt to me like that's how Lizzie should come back to it all. And it was just that moment of like, oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those moments where you're like, oh, that's terrible. It's perfect. Yeah, do it
Yeah.
that way. Ow, it hurts. Joey Snowy says, and this is the part where my heart completely breaks for Lydia Bennett. Yeah, I do think that if you were not a fan of Lydia and there were still some holdouts, I think that this is the part where you have to go like, oh, real human being taken horrible advantage of,
Yeah.
feels betrayed and heartbroken. Like that, it is a very heartbreaking moment, and Mary Kate did a great job with it.
Yeah.
So
She did.
if at this point you still have no sympathy for Lydia, get out, get out. You're not welcome here.
Every once in a while, like I'll see some because I do read the reviews. I'll see some like reviews of the book on Goodreads that are like, I still didn't like Lydia at all after the end of the show, but like I kind of liked her here. And I'm like, really? Like
I
not
mean,
even once by the end of it?
also, like, whatever they say, they were still moved to read the epic adventures
That's
of Lydia Bennett. Like, who did you
that's
think this
true.
book was about? So Sabrina Z says, I think my favorite part about how they did this storyline is how I didn't assume Lydia knew what was happening until Lizzie brought up the possibility. Then, when Jane suggested Lizzie watch Lydia's vlogs, I assume that's in the next episode, I didn't realize the entire significance until I realized the reason I didn't assume Lydia knew could have been because I did watch her videos, unlike Lizzie, and that blew my mind. Right. If anyone had been watching Lydia's videos, then they would have seen the manipulation happen, seen how he had isolated her and how he love bombed her and convinced her that no one would love her as much as him, made her really dependent on him, and then betrayed her. And it's very heartbreaking. I do get there being less rewatches.
Yeah.
It is hard to watch. If it helps, Wes is very pretty. I just continue to like absolutely objectify him.
He is
But
very pretty though.
if you're gonna watch somebody like treat somebody abominably, isn't it nice if
They might as
it's a
yeah,
little bit eye candy at
right?
the same time? This is a great point. Wayin says, I love that they've still stuck to the original plot, but really given it a new light. Charlotte and Lydia were more minor characters in the original books, but in this, they're given a much better story arc. Kudos to the people who made this. They deserve that Emmy Award. That's not what the Emmy Award was for, but thank you.
I will say I think that that's a lot of the reason why this particular arc was something that a lot of people were looking forward to and were really invested in is because I feel like it was kind of the biggest part that deviated the most from the book. And so like everything else, like, they didn't know everything that we were gonna do or how exactly we were gonna do it, but this they really didn't know what we were gonna do. And it was like that one kind of non-spoiled thing to find out, which was, obviously we did it in a way that was wonderful and terrible with like the countdown on the sex tape website, which was my favorite thing to get to do.
Just absolutely brutal. And that's a great point. And a lot of them probably assumed or feared that it would be what I feared it would be. It's the reason that I asked Bernie before signing on. I said, "What is the Lydia scandal?" Because I was really nervous that it would be a pregnancy and that I I didn't like any of the directions that that could be handled, and I didn't like the conversations that it would spark, and I didn't want to do that. I was just like, I don't like it. I don't want it to be that. But the reason my brain went there is because it is a very understandable modern equivalent, because how do you tie someone for the rest of their life to a terrible person,
Yep. I
you
mean,
know?
we didn't have
And
to look very far in our actual culture to see instances of that happening.
but what this show allows Lydia is to experience the consequences in a painful way that have lifelong consequences, but not the same kind of lifelong consequences. That really, it's a much more, it does all the things in the plot that it needs to do in terms of how it affects Lizzie's story and Darcy. Like, it is a catalyst for them finally getting together, his helping with the situation. That's canon from the book. But we give Lydia a chance for a new start, to
Right.
not be shackled for the rest of her life to one mistake that she made when she was young. And I don't mean to imply that like she made the mistake here because Wickham
Right.
absolutely manipulated and abused her. That's another reason why a lot of people connected to this arc, because they'd experienced or watched someone else that they love go through something where, to varying degrees, somebody emotionally manipulated them. It's very well written. Wickham is, even if we only knew, what we know from Pride and Prejudice, Wickham is an opportunist and someone who thinks very little of taking advantage of young women's feelings, and all in the pursuit of his own advancement, mostly for money.
Yep.
Because, I mean, gosh, in Pride and Prejudice, Gigi and Lydia were both 15, I think, when he had his things with them. And then, he marries Lydia.
Can you imagine if we would have ended it that way?
Yeah. But even then, we have divorce now, and a divorced woman is not like ruined and shunned from society. Like, it's
Yeah,
very
but
hard to
Mrs.
come up with
Bennet
an
could have given her
equivalent.
a shirt that said "Divorced women are ruined and shunned by society," and then it would have just been true.
That would have handled it. Right, but when the societal rules have changed so much, what do you do that can kind of follow you forever in a negative way? And
Feel
so,
safe.
boom, what you crafted here is complex. And I know that you didn't do it alone, and I don't mean to disregard the contributions of the whole team in terms of shaping, even while you were off doing the Lydia Bennett primarily on your own, the rest of the team
Everything else was
making
very much all of
that
us,
work
yeah.
together, and so that it all lined up and made the most powerful story. It is probably the thing that the show is most famous for, is this chunk.
I will also add too, one thing that I love about serialized stuff, obviously, and that I feel like really helped here is I do remember crafting like a lot of the Lydia and Wickham stuff like based on those early episodes that he was in and like how you guys performed it and like what came across on the screen, what was written. And that's so nice because you wouldn't have expected that to necessarily have turned out that way. Like it wasn't all like perfectly planned out ahead of time, but like getting
Right.
to see that and take that and learn that and like make something new out of it. Serialized television that isn't binge model is great.
It was so rewarding as an actor as well because, as I said, like, the emotion was just very on the surface for me throughout this whole arc, and also regarding all of the relationships, really spending a year on the journey with Lizzie. It made my job as an actor easier, but it also meant that I was growing because I was learning from my own performance. And after the first, we've already discussed this months ago, but after the first, 16-ish episodes that had been written before we were cast and then got tweaked a bit, we could all feel the shift in episodes really being written for us and for our voices and for our talents. And that's also just such a rewarding experience, to really be in harmony with the writers and to be creating these characters and their stories together.
We had a good thing going.
Yeah, there were a lot of really, really great things about it that worked really well, and that's why, I largely have good memories and feelings towards this whole experience. We're just at the beginning of this very difficult arc. But Rachel wrote the next 3 episodes as well. At this point, what you had done with Lydia, I do remember the writers kind of talking about this because they speak of it reverently, that what you had done with Lydia was like so great, but also that you had a real well-rounded big picture grasp on all the sides of that story, and that it just made the most sense for you to kind of take it over the finish line.
It's nice to finish a show and kind of, be happy with where you were all collectively able to take it, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
how I think all of us felt about LBD, so
Yeah, I feel like we told the story that we wanted to tell. Well, I am very grateful for your contributions to the Lizzie Bennett Diaries and to the Look Back Diaries. So thank you for being here.
yay, thanks for having me, we did it again.
We did it again.